Can we say that the many and the few are represented by the division of the kingdom north and south? Yes. Also, why are the north tribes called Ephraim? Is this correct? Yes, it is correct. And they're called that for a couple reasons. One, because they represent the many, and Ephraim means fruitful, double share or double in size. So Ephraim is a term that Yahweh uses to speak to the north kingdom, which is that of Israel, because they would represent the many in the end times, and that is the meaning of the name. But not only that, most because of the meaning of the name, Yahweh promised Ephraim, and because of their actions, of course, that they would be multiplied by a lot in relation to the rest of the tribes. That made so that Ephraim would fill all the tribes pretty much. So they would be so many that there would be people from Ephraim almost anywhere. So that's the point. That's the reason why Yahweh started calling the tribe of Israel, which are 10 tribes, Ephraim, because Ephraim was so huge that it was pretty much as the 10 tribes and was in the middle of those 10 tribes. And in the end times, most of the many would be from Ephraim. Ephraim was born to Joseph while he was in Egypt. So that represents the many who are in the nations thinking they are Gentiles, because Ephraim was born to Joseph with his Egyptian wife. Although according to certain writings, that wife of his was actually the fruit of the rape that Shechem, the prince of Shechem, did with Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. So the prince of Shechem raped Dinah, and the fruit of that relation was the child who would become eventually the wife of Joseph. That is according to some. So that would make her half of Israel, half Israelite. But still, the fact that Torah doesn't say that explicitly shows that Ephraim represents Gentiles who became Israel, because they were born to a Gentile woman, church congregation, yet through Joseph, in the end times, they become part of the congregation of Yahweh, but the many. That's why Yahweh gives Ephraim that name to Israel, because how many they were, how they filled the nations, they would be in the end times most from Ephraim, and how they would think they were Gentiles, or some of them would be Gentiles, yet through Yahushua would become Israelites. Yeah, in Revelation 7, if you read the tribes that are mentioned as the chosen few, you don't read the tribe of Ephraim, you read the tribe of Joseph. Normally in scriptures, Joseph and Ephraim are interchangeable. The reason for it is that the last would come from Ephraim, who came from Joseph. So the last is as Joseph. That's why he comes from Ephraim. He comes out of the many to become the leader of the few, to bring the few from the many, pretty much. So the descendant of Joseph would come from Ephraim, but Joseph is the one that represents the few. Ephraim represents the many. The two shares that Ephraim also means, the double share, the double mantle that we see also in Isaiah 42 for the last, for the few and the many, the two flocks that the last has to come for. So in the tribe that we see in Revelation 7, we read the tribe of Joseph, not the tribe of Ephraim, because Joseph represents the few. So those of Ephraim who become of the chosen few will be called Joseph, not Ephraim, because the name Ephraim represents the many. And that's why in Revelation 7 still, after we see the 12 tribes, Yahweh starts talking about the many, the multitude, the great multitude. Those would be represented by the name Ephraim. Hope that clarified your question. Then you said, I know it means fruitful, but was there a time where the 10 tribes became Ephraim? I'm not sure I understand that part. I mean, scripture calls Israel Ephraim, even though not all Israel came from Ephraim, but since most of them did, that's why the name also fits. That's pretty much the point. But it's not like the other tribes disappeared or died and only Ephraim was left. Not like that.